The ticket is already in my hand when I realize I'm not going to tell anyone, not my wife, not my mother, not the brother who drove me to the hospital when I was 19, nobody. And the reason isn't greed, it's something much darker than that. I've read every story about lottery winners who lost everything. Not to bad investments, not to taxes, not to bad luck, but to the people who loved them before the money. So I did something nobody tells you to do when you win $600 million. I folded the ticket. I put it in my sock, and I drove home in my 2014 Honda Civic doing exactly the speed limit. Every single thing that happened to me after that, every decision, every mistake, every moment the money changed how people saw me, follows a pattern. Whether you have $0 or 600 million, the same dynamics apply, and by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly what they are. My name is Marcus, and I'm going to tell you everything. I worked at a shipping warehouse. 8-hour shifts, steel-toed boots, lunch at noon in a plastic chair next to a vending machine that always ate my dollar. I had bought the ticket on a Tuesday, gas station on Route 9. I didn't even check it right away, left it in my jacket pocket for 3 days. When I finally scanned it on a Friday morning before my shift, my phone froze. Then it said, "See retailer." I drove to the gas station. The cashier, a guy named Danny who I'd talked to maybe 50 times, scanned it and went white. He looked at me. I looked at him, and I said, "Don't." He nodded. I walked out, sat in my car, and called my brother. I told him nothing. I just said, "I need a lawyer. A good one. Today." Here's the first thing nobody warns you about winning the lottery. The moment you tell anyone, the clock starts, and you cannot stop it. I didn't tell my brother why. I didn't tell my mother. I showed up to my shift that afternoon and sorted packages for 8 hours like nothing had changed. Because nothing had yet. The jackpot was technically mine, but the person walking around with $600 million folded in his sock was still eating a vending machine sandwich at noon. The gap between what you have and how you live is where most people get destroyed because they close that gap too fast and everybody notices. The attorney my brother found specialized in financial privacy law. His office was 40 minutes away in a building that looked deliberately boring. No logo, just a suite number. He told me 3 things in the first 5 minutes. 1. Do not tell your employer. 2. Do not change your behavior. 3. Set up a trust before you claim a single dollar. A blind trust lets you claim the winnings without your name becoming public. The trust claims the money, your name is nowhere. I asked how many people he'd seen get this right. He said fewer than you'd think. The ones who got it wrong almost always made the same mistake. They claimed the money first, got announced publicly, and tried to manage the fallout after. By then it was too late. The calls had started. The cousins with business plans, the old friends who needed to talk. The stealth wealth principle, whether you're hiding $10,000 or $10 billion, is this. The best financial privacy is the kind you establish before anyone knows you have something to protect. I signed the trust documents on a Wednesday. I was back at the warehouse by 6 for my evening shift. The lottery commission office is fluorescent lights, plastic chairs, and a woman behind bulletproof glass who has clearly processed enough of these to find them deeply uninteresting. The trust claimed the winnings. My attorney did the talking. I signed where I was told. After taxes, the lump sum came to approximately $280 million. My wealth manager explained something that changed how I thought about money permanently. Most people think financial freedom is about spending whatever you want. It's not. Financial freedom is about never needing to explain your decisions to anyone. The truly wealthy don't announce what they're doing with their money. They invest it quietly, index funds, private real estate, tax-advantaged accounts. The money works while they live exactly the way they always lived. I left the meeting with a plan for the full $280 million. That afternoon, I drove home and made pasta for dinner. Let me stop here, because what I'm about to tell you is the part no financial advisor, no lottery winner interview, no YouTube video ever covers. And it's the part that almost cost me everything. 3 weeks after the claim, something shifted at work. Danny hadn't used my name, but he'd mentioned a big ticket. That story had traveled. Nobody knew it was me, but people were asking around, and I heard 2 coworkers by the coffee machine talking about someone from the area who'd supposedly won. And here's what I noticed. I got nervous. Not because I was close to being found out, but because the possibility changed how I felt about every single interaction. Every time someone asked, "How was your weekend?" I was calculating. This is something personal finance never addresses. Wealth doesn't just change your bank account. It changes your nervous system. The vigilance, the constant low-level awareness that you're holding something other people want. I've talked to people with $10,000 in savings for the first time who describe the exact same feeling. Money is information. And information other people don't have creates an invisible wall between you and them, whether the amount is 10,000 or 600 million. I gave my 2-week notice that Friday. I told my supervisor I'd found a remote job. He shook my hand and said I deserved it. I drove home in the Honda Civic. But the hardest part wasn't the secrecy. It wasn't the lawyers or the logistics. It was what happened the first time someone I loved found out, and what I did about it. That's the part of this story I almost didn't include. I told my mother 6 weeks after the claim, not the full amount, enough to pay off her house and make sure she was comfortable. I told her not to tell anyone. She cried. Then she asked who else knew. I said nobody. Here's what nobody in the personal finance space tells you directly. The people who love you most are the most dangerous to tell first. Not because they'll betray you intentionally, but because the joy is too big to contain. They tell one person. That person tells one person. And within 3 weeks, you're getting calls from a cousin you haven't spoken to in 11 years. I told my brother next. Same framing, an investment. Enough to help, not the full picture. He asked 3 questions. Was it legal? Was I sure? Did I need anything from him? I said yes, yes, and no. He said okay. That was the whole conversation. And that's how you know who to tell. 8 months in, I found myself sitting in my apartment at 11 a.m. on a Tuesday with nothing I was required to do. No shift, no call, no deadline. I opened my phone, scrolled for 20 minutes, put it down. Then I just sat there. And I realized I had spent my entire adult life being pushed by necessity, and I had never once asked myself what I would choose if nothing was pushing me. That question was more uncomfortable than anything the money had brought. It took 4 months to rebuild a structure with no paycheck in it. I started volunteering. I started building something small, nothing visible. I started waking up with a reason that had nothing to do with money. This is what wealth at any level reveals. Money doesn't give you purpose. It removes the excuses that we're covering for the absence of one. If you're living paycheck to paycheck right now, you have a purpose that was assigned to you by necessity. The moment that necessity disappears, you have to choose your own. And most people have never practiced that. 2 years after the ticket, here's what my life looks like. I drive a 2019 Toyota Camry, not because I can't afford anything else, because I have no interest in what a different car would signal to people. I live in a city where nobody from my old life lives. I have close friends who know me as someone who's doing well, but not the specifics. I invest consistently. I live below what my interest income alone generates every month. I have not been on a private jet. I have not bought jewelry. I have not posted a single thing about money on any platform. And I am genuinely one of the freest people I know. Not because of the number, because I understood early that the real threat to wealth isn't taxes or bad investments, it's visibility. The moment other people can see your money, it stops being entirely yours. It becomes a negotiation, a target, a responsibility to justify. The people who hold wealth the longest are almost always the ones nobody suspected had it. Your job isn't to look rich. Your job is to be free. And the quieter you are about it, the longer that freedom lasts. If you're watching this at $0, at 10,000, or somewhere in between, the principles don't change. Build quietly. Spend below what you earn. Let your money grow in places people can't see. Protect your information. Tell fewer people than you think you should. And if you ever find yourself sitting in a plastic chair at a lottery commission office, signing documents under a trust name while a fluorescent light flickers above you, know that the Honda Civic in the parking lot isn't a sign you haven't made it. It's proof you already understand something most people never will. Subscribe if this hit differently. We put out 1 video every week on what wealth actually looks like from the inside. I'm Marcus. I'll see you in the next one.